change. This is a fundamental concept in human trade, in human relationships. But 400 years ago, a new theory emerged, and that was what was called mercantilism, which was, I only want to sell, I won't buy, I want money for myself, I'll get richer and richer and richer, and I don't care about anybody else. And mercantilism came to a dead end very fast, because the minute you built up your own money and everybody else became too poor, you had no markets to sell to. They are the ones who have to buy, but they have no money. And so mercantilism killed the goose that laid the golden eggs. And that is why we have gone in for the concept of free trade. We have been talking about it now for 50 odd years, 60 years. We set up first the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, which was GATT, and then in 1995 we established the World Trade Organization. The essence of the World Trade Organization is the concept of a rule-based free trade. In other words, that it is not a question of regulation, it's a question of framing the rules along which free trade will pass. And those rules have to be identified and codified through consensus. You sit together, you talk, you discuss, ultimately you agree, and once you have agreed, then those are the rules which are going to be applied. So the regulation of free trade is not done arbitrarily by a dictator or a superpower sitting somewhere. It is done through a process of dialogue and debate in the World Trade Organization. Now, the opposite of this is the concept of protectionism. Protectionism is, in a way, a sort of modern mercantilism, in which you say, I don't care about you, I'm just going to protect myself. And we have horrible examples of protectionism in the world. There was a time, for example, when France was trying to protect itself against Japanese cars. And they did it by coming forward with a false concept, totally false, by saying the roads in France are different from the roads in Japan, therefore we need a different type of car. So we will not import Japanese cars. And of course, the Japanese are smart cookies also. So they tried to hit France where it counted. And France is very proud of the quality of its skis. They produce the world's best skis. And the Japanese stopped the import of French skis by saying the snow in Japan is different from the snow in France. And so we won't import French skis. Now, this type of protectionist behavior is what we are arguing against. We say, don't distort trade. Don't distort it with subsidies. Don't distort it with tariffs. Don't distort it with non-tariff barriers. Let whoever can produce best produce it, and in the way everybody will be happy. That is not regulation. This is rule-based. And the rules are being applied by the World Trade Organization, which is a consensus body. Everything in the WTO is agreed by consensus. We all agree and then we apply. I hope that answers your question.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to add something to Ambassador Kamal, because we've been looking at the advanced countries and we've been talking, you asked about what can the US do, but I just want to give an example on the trade issue. Today China itself has caused problems to the developing countries themselves. China has come out with very low wages when it comes to manufacturing. And a lot of smaller countries, whether it's Bangladesh or the Sri Lankas and the smaller countries of the world, which used to manufacture in terms of, for the Western world, China was able to undercut them by their lower wages. And where these countries depended a lot on these manufacturing of textiles and things of that sort, they lost it to China. So while we are concentrating and focusing and saying about the advanced nations of the world and about US, there needs to be also a playing field in how the developing countries work. Because you take a huge country like India and China, they can undercut the smaller countries of Africa and others in that playing field too. So in a sense, in the context of trade and things of that sort, it's not just between the advanced world and the developing world, it's even across the board within the developing world too. So it has to be a fairness across the street. And if you follow the law of comparative trade, then you need to come with a fair system. Because then what happens is if I'm a bigger country, I can sort of knock you down. Because and then you have the smaller countries in Africa and the others who really get heavily affected. So there has to be this whole level playing field across the board.
Over to Montclair for two questions from that end.
You mentioned agricultural subsidies a lot in your presentation, and what should Western governments do to alleviate this problem? And the farm lobby is really strong in Europe and in the United States. What are some of the obstacles you see to these subsidies being reduced? And also, subsidies keep the food prices down, and with the food crisis in the world right now, do you think that getting rid of subsidies would make food more prohibitively expensive to impoverished nations?
Second question.
We've been watching the commodities market and the shifts of energy prices. If the commodity prices don't stabilize or decrease like they were before, what do you think will happen to the global poverty rate, and how will that affect the developing world?
Excellent questions from Montclair, and I congratulate you because the high school students are coming forward with better questions than the university students. So congratulations. Can I take the first question and you take the second? Agricultural subsidies. Subsidies are a free gift to inefficiency. That's what it is. You come to me and you say, oh, I've had it, I can't work, I can't do my final paper because my mind is not working, etc. And I say to you, it's okay, I'll give you an A, nevertheless, even if you do not give me a final paper. That's what a subsidy is. It's a free gift to inefficient farmers. And so the result is not that food prices are coming down. Food prices are not coming down because of subsidies. The only effect of subsidies is that the efficient producers are being killed. The most efficient producer of corn and wheat in the world is Zimbabwe, and it is dead because of the subsidies that we give in Canada, United States, and Australia. The most efficient producer of cotton in the world is Mali in Africa, dead because it cannot compete in the world market against subsidized prices. So it's not that the prices are coming down, the prices are being financed by the taxpayer who wants a free gift. Now, you spoke of the farm lobby. The farm lobby in the United States is 74 Senate votes. At the drop of a hat, the farm lobby can produce 74 votes in the US Senate. And the question is, do you want to defend the rich plantation farmers, these are the old families in the United States, or do you want to support the concept of free trade? That question you have to answer. Do you want to support the rich families, or do you want to support the principle of free trade? Once you've answered the question, everything else will fall into place. But please, you have to decide yourself for what is fair and what is foul. Over to you for commodities.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the question you asked is very interconnected to the whole agricultural subsidy issue. It is clear, very clear. If commodity prices do not stabilize, and if there's not a level playing field where a lot of the raw materials, especially that come from the developing world, do not get a fair price, it is going to be an impact on the whole poverty alleviation issue. Okay? And it is going to be a major issue. The bottom line, I think, is again connected to the whole issue on commodity prices. If you really look at free trade, if you want commodity prices to stabilize, you really have to look at the free trade issue. You have to look at the law of comparative advantage where trade, it is based on trade. Where is it in the best place, and where can you grow at the most economical price certain commodities? What are the best places? Where can the world look at itself as a globe and say, cocoa is great, it's to be grown in Ghana, etc., blah, blah, blah. what are the best places in the world where you can